Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So I'd like to do just a quick rogue build update video. So this is going to be in extension to this rogue masterclass max damage build for module 24, where I go over my entire setup, which is kind of versatile, where you can go in for all content. Recommend watching that. Timestamps on the play bar and also in the video description to those specific sections. And so this video will just be an update to that build, what gear I'm moving forward. So you may have all heard already with regards to the Vistani and the Illustrious Grace ring, and they both have a bonus which works pretty much exactly the same. Basically, whenever you deal an AoE attack power against one enemy, they gain the debuff. So from Vistani, they receive 5% more damage from everybody, and with Illustrious Grace, you reduce their defense and awareness, thus increasing everybody's damage. And so on a rogue, what we can do is actually use two of the new rings, Illustrious Grace with Illustrious Obligation. And this is what I run with, and it gives you then the Dark Maiden set. And you can see that gives us Forte, and on top of that, our attacks have a 10% chance to deal additional 33 magnitude damage around us. That is absolutely garbage damage, just a random like at-will test against a dummy. And you can see that we have the pressure of the Maiden was dealing like less than 1% of our damage. In an actual fight where you're doing daily powers and mount powers, that'll deal like less than 0.5% of your overall damage. It's an insignificant damage bonus. However, the benefit of that is it's an AoE attack which can trigger your Vistani and your Grace ring. Let's move to the training room and I can show you what I mean. Before we do so, just again, this is an endgame build update. So you're going to have to be running like Master Temple of the Spider and be attaining these rings to make this viable. Without it, I wouldn't worry about it. And I probably wouldn't worry about Vistani either, because without the two rings, Vistani, you can't really get to work properly on the rogue without sacrificing a decent chunk of your damage. And so once we're here and we can fight this boss dummy, you can see we can very easily activate both the debuff from the Taroka and also the debuff from the ring. And if you continually attack, and especially if you use Path of Blades, it's very easy to maintain those, as you can see again, and then they quickly proc like a few seconds after they've expired. And that just makes it very easy on the rogue to maintain Vistani and the ring, thus providing those debuffs and benefits to your entire party, yourself included, meaning you're dealing a lot more damage. And you can see in the log just here, this is just us fighting against the dummy. We have the pressure of the Maiden, which hit 4 times. You can see the damage. And as a result, that being our AoE attack power that's only hitting one enemy, we managed to proc our Vistani Curse 3 times and our Midnight's Malady 3 times. It says 6 there, but that's because it has some weird double proc thing. That means it's very easy to sustain and very good for just providing everybody with a damage increase. And again, you should have seen my video in the past. I went over explaining how if everybody's stacking Vistani and the Grace ring, it's just nuts. But just be warned, this may change. They have made already adjustments to like the Illustrious Obligation ring that it now actually works. And I don't know, either they don't mind that Illustrious Grace ring stacks the way it does with other Illustrious Grace rings, or they're just letting it slide for now until people abuse it, and when enough people abuse it, they'll fix it so it doesn't stack. Vistani has always, for a very long time, stacked with each other. Whether that's intended, I don't know. But on a rogue, this is my setup now. You can see we're running with pretty much the same gears we did before, masterwork weapons, but we're running with these Dark Maiden Assault Gatters. Basically, they're mainly for the new dungeon, so they're for the Master Temple of the Spider. And you'll also be able to run them in Demogorgon. They just give that bunch of power, and when you're in the new dungeon, also 5% damage. Alternative to these, when you're running content that's not in Underdark or the Temple of the Spider, you can run like the sharp long boots or your rusted iron leggings just for a bit more damage. So let's jump back over to the North Dark Reaches. And you can see this is what my stats are looking like. This is out of combat. Power 90%, accuracy 55.8%, combat advantage 79.2%, crit strike 79.2%, and crit severity 75%. And with the gear we're using, the sharp jacket, we get 15% crit severity just by hitting 5 times, and that'll give us that 90% crit severity. Then with our Wild Hunt Rider and our Path of Blades, we can easily get that 11% combat advantage to get that to 90%. And additionally, crit strike will go up by 7.5% with our precision from our companion. Now, if we have then a paladin, we can get our crit strike pretty much to 90%. Very close. Unfortunately, we are a bit short, and what you might want to do then instead is, instead of having back alley tactics, have hastily sharpened blades. But having like 85, 86, 87% crit strike isn't the end of the world. And so going into a pack of enemies, I can show you all of my stats. Right now, just to be clear, Vistani and the Illustrated Grace Ring is garbage in AoE fights, so you might want to have an entirely different build. This build is for single target boss fights, this setup at least, with Vistani and the Grace Ring, just to debuff that boss so you can all deal more damage against it. But just going into a pack of enemies, we can have a quick look at what our stats are like, and you can see there we go. 90% power, 90% combat advantage, 86.7% crit strike, with our crit severity at 90% as well. You can see all the stacks there. And the only changes we really made from, again, this build that I posted a short while back is to change to these boots right here. We're using the combat advantage shirt. We're using Illustrated Grace and Illustrated Obligation with the Vistani set. And additionally in enchantments, I've changed over to like Dragonbone Blades, Mythalar, and also the Assassin's Dice. That gives us 3 artifacts that we can choose from as debuff artifacts. Alternative to like Mythalar, you could have the Tentacle Rod as well. They all give very nice offensive stats just there. And then of course the Taroka artifact to complete our Vistani set. And that's it. You can see my setup of enchantments, overloads, they all pretty much stay the same. And moving to our powers, again, that's all just pretty much the same. With boons as well, with companions, again, also not much has changed, except we have switched over to the Baby Deep Crow, or you could have the Alpha Compy instead of the Neverwinter Knight. And then for AoE, you could have the Neverwinter Knight instead of the Batiri. Now, you might be able to find and you might be able to optimize your build a bit better just by moving things around, and on top of that getting external buffs from other players to then be able to stack a bit more power. For example, if you were to go and get like Aspect of the Pack from a ranger, you could stack some more crit strike here, switch precision over to power, and then switch this back to the knight. Things like that. A very simple solution is to switch out precision over to potency. That would give you your power that you need, and then just put the knight in there instead of the Baby Deep Crow and switch to hastily sharpened blades instead of back alley tactics, as the knight will be a little bit more reliable bonus, and this hastily sharpened blades will essentially give you up to 10% additional crit strike, crit chance. And mounts, we have switched over to rapid accuracy here instead of like opportunistic or the power we would have gained. And I believe I switched one insignia over to brutality just because we didn't need those extra stats. And again, in combat, with all of our stacks procced off, you can see we have some very nice stats. I'm pretty pleased with them. Accuracy just above 55%. Now, alternatively, you could also use the accuracy boots there, but have a look at my ratings. They're all so close to 80,000 with only crit severity a bit short. That means we can't really use any other real gear to get much more ratings. And Striker Companion, yeah. You know I want to use an augment, especially with these changes. Now, what buffs am I using? Well, Guild Stronghold Food has got a massive improvement, so we are using Ratatouille. We are using the same buffs as before with our Flask of Potency, our Squash Soup, our Sunlord's Gift Elixir, and the Ratatouille. And you can use an Invocation Blessing to get an even additional 1000 accuracy. And you can see all of my buffs just here, and that correlates to the stats I'm using. So we've got the Sunlord's Gift Elixir, the Potency, the Squash Soup, the guild food that's sated, and then the +1 to ability scores. And then you can see the other buffs there as well. We have like the Forger's box, which luckily gave us a bit of crit. We've got the Gift of Awareness and accuracy from the invocation, and that is it. Very nice setup, if I do say so myself. And you can switch these weapons out for the new legendary weapons when you do so obtain them. And all you'll have to do when you do get them is, instead of having the modification here for the extra crit, you will want to switch like an enchantment like the citrine over to crit in order to then make up for that and compensate for it. And those weapons will definitely be worth it because of the amount of item level and base damage. Overall, that's pretty much my update to this build. We are indeed using 2 of the new rings, again, simply to be able to proc the Grace ring and the Vistani set, and you can do so very reliably. I'm pretty happy with this setup and it works pretty well. Again, a massive thank you to all of these channel members for their added support. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now. Oh, and PS, I would switch out the Hawk over to the Dragonfire. I just didn't get around to doing that.